So this is the Order of Chivalry weekly guild meeting. We do this every Sunday at 2 Central Time. It is open to anybody in the community who wants to come. You do not have to be a guild member. We try to do different things each week. Some weeks we have guest speakers. This week we are proud to have Atos coming to share at our guild meeting. And as a reminder, next week will be a crafting. So we will not be meeting in the guild hall. We will be meeting at the main crafting stations. And as the people that know, we have everything, available. So if you want to get something done, you need a GM, or if you need to have something crafted that's above your level, etc., we will have people there to do it. And we even have people there to smash your stuff for you, so you get more higher level on the. Come on, what's the word? It's not smashing. What? Yeah, we keep calling it smashing. I'm like using the wrong word. So we have it covered for you. If you need something made, we also do recipe trading and so on. So be there at our normal time, 2 Central Time.
For those just joining, if anyone's joining, I'm attending a guild meeting today. As you just heard, that is Minerva speaking in the background. They're going to be asking me some questions here in a few minutes.
Instead of just popping out questions or having them bring them, not just having to read them themselves. We will have a smaller turnout here in the guild hall because it is double XP. And although people are listening and they're here in Discord and they will be watching the stream, they want to get their XP on. And so they're physically not here. Those who are here, I do appreciate it. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Vero.
All right, cool. Well, Chris, again, welcome. And like Minerva just said, we're going to do a little bit, sort of an interview style. Like last time, we've been gathering questions or topics to talk about a little bit. And rather than just, reading it all out loud, we just try to combine it a little bit to have some topics to talk about. To glance over a little list, we've got some questions related about player-made dungeons and about summons and pets, and of course crafting related. We've got some specific adventure-related questions and some user interface questions. Now, what I was kind of hoping on is if I touch a subject or have a question, that you can just kind of brainstorm about the topic a little bit and just see how we can go there. And like last time, perhaps when we went over a few topics, we can do like a little bit of an open mic thing where people can just ask questions that they have sitting in their minds which have not been discussed yet.
All right, sounds good.
Right. First thing is about the player-made dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
We were wondering if there are any plans to add rooms or totems where we can spawn different animal types.
So that is stuff that I'm trying to turn over to Ravalox. It's pretty much at a data level now, meaning that anybody who understands the data can jump in there and make some of that content. He has been spread as thin as anybody here, but he is actually now working on it. He's been working with the list to try and understand some of the mechanics. So I don't know if he's going to have any in for this next release, but he is working on some dungeon stuff now. In terms of adding the animal stuff in, that is one we absolutely could do and we should be doing. Again, giving you guys a reason to go farm some animals. I do know that there's a few bugs that I just saw that came up that I will be fixing for dungeon stuff, but none of them should be blocking adding creatures or adding animals, and it should all be something that Ravalox can do on his own. But if he doesn't, I can go add him in, or Elgarion's another one to add him in, because I think the essences, having animals drop essences that can be used to craft those type rooms is something that's another, big thing for you guys to farm. I know it's something that people can harvest and, farm and then sell as an item. One of the things that was just fixed, I will mention, is some of the nav stuff should be a little better in dungeons going forward. and also for pets as well. So we'll see if that's better next release.
That's good. That kind of answers one of the other topics, and I didn't want to start the questions or the interview with something what doesn't work. But we've noticed that some rooms just don't spawn really proper, and sometimes it looks like some neighboring rooms need to spawn before laying room spawn. And a while ago you talked about the little mesh issues. If it's that still, I was wondering if you have some specific things to look at once you can dedicate some dev time to it. Is there any plans on fixing that? But you already kind of answered it.
You mean the nav mesh stuff? That?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one that I have been sadly trying to avoid and been unable to do so. So instead, I recently kind of took a big deep dive into it. The reason I was looking at it recently was trying to understand. I had 2 or 3 different issues come up all in a fairly short time period that all had to deal with it. So one was pets behaving differently, and even having, some pets behave differently than other pets. That turned out to be a nav mesh issue as well. That should be fixed. Another one was diving into, I think it's I forget, I don't want to say it's the wrong person, but people have been making some videos for us. One of the great ones is one of fighting the dragon in Kroll, and having the dragon path out of, it was a video I was going to promote on Facebook just as an ad for us, and the dragon in that keeps pathing out of the room, like leaving the room, so I had to dive into some nav mesh stuff for that as well. But anyways, I fixed a couple of the issues that we're dealing with that, and I understand it more than I used to, and I'm a little less afraid to look at it. The debugging the dungeon stuff is always a little bit tricky, but I've got a system set up now so I can actually get in there and look at it. But yeah, I am looking at the nav mesh stuff, and hopefully we'll be making it better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think a lot of us really think that player dungeons add a lot, and what we're also really hoping on that in time that there will be different totems we can place in a room, so we can have less static rooms, like in dungeon of player A. The room will have spiders, in the same dungeon, same room of player B, it will have different mobs. Will that be an option in the future?
That could be an option. Is there? If you guys could pick one creature type that you wanted to see added to dungeons, what would it be?
Dragons.
Which one?
Dragons.
Dragons?
Yeah. Killing dragons for profit is always an enjoyable thing to do.
I'm trying to think. So dragons, I mean, the only challenge with those guys is they're so painful in terms of, their size. They take a pretty specific room.
Let's not take dragon for an example, but I was more thinking, if we look at the rooms right now, we know what is going to spawn in there. So we can make a super high tier rise boss room, and we know we're going to encounter those liches there. But it would be really cool if we can choose to put something different there. And of course a dragon is just a fitting issue, but let's just change it from liches to bears, obsidian bears, just throwing something out.
Yeah.
Or if you want to choose not bears but elves or something.
No, Winfield did say he would like to see monster fish.
Really? That's shocking.
I don't know where he comes up with it.
Fish, yeah, floating in the room.
So I don't think that would be that hard. I'm trying to think. I thought we already had at least one room that was like that. I know I started on a room that was like that would spawn different stuff, let you put up different totems. I'm going to say there's not a reason that we can't do that, and I will look into that. Again, I was asking which creature type, because since I haven't done a new creature type in a while, there's not a real good example for Ravalox or Elgarion to go look at. And I would just...
give you one that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I was just looking...
A spider room with no spiders. You don't have spiders.
Yeah.
but you have a spider room already that exists, that is already a drop, that is now just a room full of spider webs.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that if with the previous topic that if it would probably be super helpful to those guys if I would go in and do like here's a clean from scratch all parts of it, the essences, the totems, the whatever versions of the creatures are going to go into the room for those guys. Just because again, as I mentioned, this is all down to a point of data. But if those guys don't have a good, clean example of data, a change to look at, it will be pretty tough diving back, a year ago trying to figure that stuff out from 100 change lists when I was probably kind of thrashing it a little bit anyways as we were still working on tech and content at that point. So maybe I'll do get a spiders done and make that for this release and try to do that tomorrow because then that may help unblock Elgarion or Ravalox if they choose to do it.
Cool. I think
Making my notes.
That wraps the dungeon part up a little bit. Let's move to a different topic unless anybody in here has a very specific question and answer, of course. A few things about summon pets, and then actually this is one of the topics we've been sitting on since the last time. We weren't able to really discuss it more when you were here, but we were wondering if we're gonna see that greater demon in chaos again, and also you've been talking about a little pack or a small pack of summon elementals, like for example multiple skeletons. And is there any thoughts or any news on summons?
So you will probably see multiple skeletons in the not too distant future, like the next few releases, just as a proof of concept, proof of tech. The greater demon, as much as I want to get that out, and I do have ideas for how it will work and the design for it, it's a bit challenging right now just because we've got we're a little short-handed on the art side of things, and the current new type of creature that's been in the works for a while is taking more time than expected. And that is also, right now, basically it's down to a polishing the VFX side of things. But I know that because that took longer than expected, right now Damon and Travis are both, have a big pile of stuff that they're behind on that they would like to do. So before I go and commit to doing something like doing the big demon, greater demon summoning, I think I need to give those guys a chance to catch up. I have looked at moving, basically making a greater demon that just looks like the current demon. I personally think our current demon looks horrible. That's one of those creatures, when we talk about it, everybody talks, I think they hate the troll the most, and then the demon may be second on that list. So it is most in need. It's one of the ones most in need of being redone. And making a bigger version of that, like taking the exact same model and making a bigger version of that, just makes it even more hideous. But Greater Demon is probably in it'll probably happen before the end of the year. Multiple skeletons. I'm going to try and finish up some of that tech. I only have one thing in front of me right now that's continuing to be a thorn in my side, which is trying to get some of the terrain leveling, terrain flattening stuff to not be so buggy. So hopefully I can wrap that up and then move on to some of these other things.
Okay, cool.
Can I add something on that? You had talked about it creating, you had said somebody had an idea for a whole different tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is anything else on that you want to let out? Or is it still...
That is one we've talked about it internally. There's actually, I've set up some skill names, which will probably get pooped on. And actually I've got a change list sitting right now that has placeholder skills for the tree. The same thing that I just talked about is also the thing that is blocking that tree as well, which is that requires a lot of art and art time from animations and just new visuals, new VFX. Some of them are new items in hand. So that one's, again, fairly blocked by art. But yeah, that will happen before the end of the year. I can't say exactly when. Hopefully, we're going to be unblocked after this next release. Actually, Damon is getting pretty close to being freed up as it is. So he probably would be done with the stuff he had, but he had some. He also was selling a house and also had some mom issues, taking care of mom and some eye surgery and some other surgery stuff going on. So he's been a little behind on getting his expected stuff done. So.
All right. So, doing a little sidestep into the crafting portion. This was something I was just thinking about myself, and I don't do a whole lot of crafting. But if I do look at the skill levels, and this is the same for adventuring for that matter, but we know that there's let's call it a flat roof of level 200. But we also know that reaching level 200 is not really a reasonable thing to strive towards. Now, you guys did pick level 200 as a roof, let's call it that. Is there any plan for in the far future, let's perhaps say episode 3 or 4, that we're gonna see those levels? And just to give an example, if you look at certain skills which are really heavily in XP cost, if you want to get that to 200, it's a really reasonable, not reasonable thing to do. Basically, is there there's going to be an age where we're going to be seeing that? Okay.
So there's been. I mean, I don't think it's any big secret that there's been some inflation, not just to gold, but also to player experience in terms of speed of gaining experience, speeding up. Right now, because there is kind of this hard cap of experience, it's not practical to ever get there. We are getting pretty close to the point where I'm just going to remove the hard cap of experience, and players won't see attunement anymore. Right now, it's fairly rare for players to hit it. Again, the thing we continue to try to push is to give players ways to go rather than deeper into individual skills, is to push them to go wider into other type skills. And again, buying some perks is one of those ways that is planned. But in terms of reaching 200 or beyond, that would take some acceleration in terms of experience, which I do believe will happen to some extent over the next year or two, which might make it possible, but it is pretty, you've probably seen the math on the curves. It is pretty exponential beyond that. So I may take a look at the experience curve and make some changes on it once you hit a certain level. But again, there's still some balance that needs to happen in terms of skills, which I'm probably going to talk to Elgarion just because we need to sync on a few things. There are still a few skills out there and a few passives out there that give more linear rewards in terms of if you have a 50 and you get it to 100, then the reward is double, and that's one of those things we're trying to avoid that where we can. But until those get cleared up, we're not going to let anybody go beyond 200. The 200 was a very arbitrary number that was just pulled out of thin air. We actually track, I think we're using longs for computer people out there. We're using 64 bits of precision for all experience stuff. So clearly we could expand that to crazy levels and beyond 200 if we wanted to. And it would not be that hard. Right now there wasn't a good reason to. But increasing the rate at which people can can gain levels is another option that will get people to 200 or beyond.
Cool. So a little thing about refining. If you look at refining speed for boards, bindings and straps, it's extremely slow and painful. Can we either get one increase the speed or to increase the bulk amount from 50 to 100?
You say for binding?
Boards and bindings or straps.
I can take a look at that. That's one I'm trying to Elgarian and I are pretty much on the same page, and we're trying to make a lot of that stuff less painful. And again, I actually have recently started cracking down on some crafting botters. I think I may have made a tweet or two about that, but trying to stop people from botting. But one of the things, again, if we have something where people feel they bought it, there's only a couple of reasons. One is they're gaining something from it and they just want to continually exploit it. But the other, equally as common or reason people do it is because they, there's some bad design there, which in this case is having limits on those things or making things take too long. As long as players, some things, the limiting factor is shouldn't be the skill. It should be you got all this stuff, the gathering of all this stuff and the gathering of resources. Any of those type things, I honestly don't care if the crafting part of it is twice as fast, 5 times as fast, because the real time sink is on the other end. It's in whether it's the farmed thing or you found it out in the world or whatever. There's probably some things that we do not want to have that for. Anything where you can buy all the components for and then craft it. Buy all from a merchant, not from other players, is one we don't want to have that. But having that go much faster or having much larger stacks on that, I think needs to happen. And again, there's just not a reason to. We're punishing you on the front end and on the back end. We should only be making you sink time into one side or the other, and making those either the number that you can do at a time bigger or making it go faster is also another one of those things of making people not bot just due to poor design reasons.
Yeah.
Hearing people all around cheering.
Yeah.
It's always tricky to prevent botting. I think it's always a fight against it. So another question, and I know that botting is also partly probably an answer of this, but I understand that since day one that the developers have wanted to have crafting have a cost both in time and in resources. Anytime there is an item that is found that people can make and either break even on it or make a big profit on it, it is changed. Can you explain the reasoning behind it and why there cannot be an item that is crafted for some small profit?
Because you'll see exactly what I had to crack down on 2 weeks ago. We had an item that was set up and the default price on it was left rather than being set, and the person who did it didn't catch that, and for reasons that are too complicated to explain here, our test didn't catch it because we have tests to catch that type of stuff to prevent it from going out. And so I only noticed it because I was looking into some economy anomalies, and sure enough, looking into what people are doing, how they're generating gold, turned into me going into someone's basement and finding 4 people all standing in the exact same place on top of each other, botting, creating that thing. And yeah, I think some people probably know the item that I'm talking about. I think it was the belts. But yeah, and I looked into it. Unfortunately, it hadn't become too widespread. But as soon as I found that, and it's like, okay, 4 guys were botting, and I had to go and dig into why they would be doing this. Yeah, anytime you have something like that, then it immediately becomes and you can turn a profit. That immediately becomes infinitely bottable, and it's not going to be times 1. It's going to be times 20. There'll be a basement with 20 guys in it, or 20 guys in their own basements to spread things out. I didn't catch that one sooner just because not that many people had caught on to it yet. There's a couple people who'd caught on to it, but as soon as more people started catching on, it immediately started skewing my graphs for economy stuff, and I had to investigate. But yeah, as soon as you have something that has a loop like that, it will be botted. And it will be something that will now I got to fight all the bots because people will make gold. And if there's some players who just do it casually, but then there's some people who are doing it because they're trying to make money. They're trying to sell gold for real dollars, which is something that still happens and is problematic. We have to look at it, and you kind of have to look at it as what's the hourly wage a player can make, and for something like that, they were not making big hourly wages like $1 an hour, but then you start putting 10 guys doing the exact same thing, all botting the same stuff, and it gets bigger. And then you now factor in that this can be done by somebody who paid 0 cents for the game, 0 cents to play, and they live in a country where the average wage is $3 an hour, and it just invites the wrong type of people in there to have that type of loop. We want people to be able to make stuff that they can sell to other players for profit. We never want to make stuff that players can sell to a merchant for profit. We don't want NPCs to be the guys driving the economy and adding gold to the economy. We want them to be pulling gold out of the economy. So, for those who are wondering, the end result of that recipe was a fraction of 1% of the total economy. It did not cause any massive inflations. It's just when it happens on a day-to-day basis, and I see total gold added to the economy, because I keep all these charts up on my machine at all times, just to try and catch that type stuff. So, anyways, that exact thing that happened is the reason we can't have those loops. As soon as you have a loop that is a profit loop, it turns into players making stuff purely to sell to merchants to screw up the economy, and then botting it times 10. So.
Winfield would like to add, well done for the monopolies, and the stock market did not crash.
Sorry about that. Opening a soda.
Happy you guys caught that. That's what people also are saying in Discord chat. Oh, good to hear that. So I want to hop on to a different subject, and this is QA server.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I was just thinking about myself. When I talk about Ultima Online a little bit, I don't think people will mind when I bring Ultima Online as an example to this. But when you looked at like a test server or a QA server, if you wanted to specifically test some things, you could set like your skills or set certain stats, instantly change it rather than level up for it very fast. Is there a way where we could do similar in QA, that if there's something new to test, that we can just set skills for it, similar to how you can do it for your dev character, sort of?
Mm-hmm. It's one we look at. It's not that hard tech-wise, obviously, to just expose that to you. It is one that scares us a bit in that we all have the same nightmares of, and this actually happened once very early, I think before we were actually live. We add features to QA that are specifically for that type of testing to give players crazy stuff, and it manages to make its way to the live server. There's actually one, and I'll mention it since Minerva's here. I think Violation actually found one where one time early on we published the dev client to players. Basically, it accidentally turned on all dev features for all players in there. And Violation found it very early on and told us about it, and we fixed it pretty quick. But so it's not that hard. I would like to. Right now we've got it so it gives you a bunch of stuff. You get a bunch of stuff at login, but I know what you're talking about. It's still pretty tedious to go and now you got to train it. And if you're doing something that takes a long time to train, like some summoning skills or tamer or something like that, it's a pretty big pain in the butt. So I can look into Again, it shouldn't be that hard. I can look into it and see if we can do something, and maybe I can do it and do it hard-coded to make sure it never makes it out of QA. But I'll look into it and see if I can make that happen. The challenge is all that stuff happens. It takes client changes and server changes to make that stuff work, and I'll have to look at things. Some of it is I have to short-circuit some of the checks checks testing whether or not you're a dev or not, whether you have the right flags. But I can look into it. We continue to make the rewards for logging into QA better, but I know that's still not the same as giving you instant training on things.
Would be really cool if, and I'm thinking out of the top of my head here, but that's mainly for when we see new skills come in. It would be really cool if we were able to just instantly put it to like, let's say 160, 170 on QA and see if it breaks stuff. I can imagine that for certain skills it would have helped a lot that if we've tested it on QA and we saw kind of break points, let's say let's call old air shield, for example. We could spot that before, or let's say the old BART stuff before the changes. It would help a lot if we can just put it to silly mode and see what breaks. And I think it would be really cool for you guys as well to just see what we would do with those things. You know, give us the power to just set those skills on QA and look what happens. And as long as it's within the range what we could actually do on live server, that's why I said let's say 160 or 170. That's something we could totally do on live. And if it breaks stuff, you will see it break stuff.
All right, I'll see if I can turn that on for you guys on QA.
Cool.
Turn on set skills on QA. All right.
So this is something different, and this is really fun, but yet tedious, and it gets to ear-damaging proportions. But for a few months, people have been screaming in my ears that please, next time when Chris comes, talk about if there are any more tiered dungeons or in the make. So specifically, is there like a tiered rise or a tiered crawl or a tiered existing dungeons going to be recreated and be put in episode 2 contents?
Hopefully. So right now, I'd kind of hope to make the Obsidian Panopticon be a tiered dungeon where you could play it in all different modes. That didn't end up happening, and then it went live before I had a chance to go and sneak my tiering in for it. But that may be one that I go back and turn it into tiers. The other one I'd been looking at was making a tiered version of the Rise. But there's a lot of different creature types and a lot of things in the Rise to update. I started working on updating the Rise, and I've kind of realized that just I have so many different things that I end up trying to touch, you know, in addition to trying to, you know, run the team and manage the team and financial reports and paying the team and you know, all the boss type stuff. I'm trying to commit myself to do fewer things so I don't miss too many more promises that I've made people. But
I can tell, personal note, I like it when you do less but get it all the way done. You know, because you have a tendency to get excited, and then get distracted. You brought that up.
Yep.
But, and then we have things that are 80% finished. I'd rather less but complete than more and not complete.
Well, usually my hope on these things is that I can get it mostly done, and then somebody else can take over, and on the team can take over and finish the last 20%. But I think everybody else on the team has their own stuff that they're pretty passionate about, and I try not to rip people off of things that they're passionate about. So I am trying to do less and do less better, so that's why a few of the things I'd planned on sneaking out early just didn't sneak out. So but yeah, in terms of tiered dungeons, right now Sanyo I know is working on another dungeon. I'm not sure, that'll probably be not this release coming up in a couple weeks, but the one after that. I'm trying to think if there's other ones. The big one that Travis has been working on, his kind of experimental type level, that's something very different than we've done before. We'll see how that goes, but that one I don't think can be tiered just because there's at least one big... it's mainly focused around just a boss fight that's really got some new stuff that we're trying out and some new... trying to introduce some new tactics. with the new type. So I don't think tiering that one with the boss fight is one that's possible. Did you guys have a dungeon in mind that you thought might convert well to being a tiered one?
Personally, I would love to see the Rise, because it has many different rooms which potentially could scale well. Let's say the mage room, for example, or that archer slash dog room, which is quite close to it, or even the dragon one. And we see what happens when dragons get killed. I like to kill the dragons in Merkur quite a lot, and I'm in normal mode, and I can do that really, really well in normal mode with my fire. But if I do the exact same thing in extreme, the dragons are skilled, and I notice a big difference. And that would work quite well, I think, for dragons in the Rise.
I will go look. There's when I did the Rise, again, I did that to try and demonstrate and prove some concepts and prove out some play ideas. But one of the things that is still unique about it is that it has far too many creatures where I was like, this version of the creature sucks and I'm going to make a new one to fit just for the Rise. So because of that, many of those don't have an episode 2 version of them. But that's one of the things I've done is I think my spreadsheets are pretty good at this point in terms of matching up those things. So I could probably convert the Rise just being episode 2, but make the initial tier of the Rise, maybe make the bottom tier easier, the mid tier what it is right now, and then make a hard and a very hard tier above that. And swap those guys out. I'll see if I can fit that on my schedule, because I've been wanting to do more with that stuff, and that is one that is not. We just haven't had enough new maps that are that type of content that fit well to that. So let me get that on there.
Okay. Sounds very good. So just scrolling down the list here, and this is a good one, fairly recent for you as well. Can you tell about the change coming to the official stream and why you are making the change, or why you have made the change?
Yeah, so that's one. I mean, we try to step back and take some sanity checks on things. Doing the stream, I know this will shock you. No one on the team is really an extroverted type personality. For us, including myself, getting on and doing like the stuff I'm doing right now can be fairly draining. Then also having the stream be on Friday was kind of a questionable thing, and then it was being done between 4 and 5 p.m. So really the only people who could watch the stream live were people who were didn't work or had some job where they could watch it live on the job, or maybe in Europe. And even in Europe it was a problem, because then that ends up being late for a lot of people. So we didn't feel, one, it was draining on the team and draining, energy wise. No one looked forward to Friday. It's kind of one of those things, I think it came up a couple times, is Friday was everyone's least favorite day because they always had to be around for the stream and couldn't make plans. But the real reason is, we're all working hard on the game, but a lot of the stuff we do just doesn't fit well into stream content. So we end up not having enough stream content. And then the streams end up being a lot of far too many times just showing up and before the stream, what are we going to talk about? And it's I guess we'll take questions. And then we end up getting some of the same questions over and over again. I think the streams made a lot of sense for the team when there were some very extroverted people on the team in Richard and Star, who, they thrived on that stuff and also were much better, speakers and just much better on streams and more interesting. I mean, it's hard to compete with either of those two guys in terms of interesting stories or, overall personality, just talking to a crowd. So when they were on the team, it pretty much, it made some sense. But also, even when they were on the team, the primary reason that streams. I'm not sure if people remember, but they were like we'd do 24-hour telethons, and then those turned into quarterly streams that were, I forget how long, 4 hours or something. And then the 4-hour streams turned into weekly streams that were an hour long. But a lot of that was because Star was looking at the books and seeing like, it made more money doing it. Which way made the most money? Did that help? Did that do more? Did that do less? And he actually found it made more money doing that. So that's pretty much where it was at the end. It was Star had found that made more money doing multiple small streams rather than one big stream a month. But again, as we've moved forward, one of the things I've tried to do with the game is focus less on the let's try and drive, see how much money we can squeeze out of people, and instead let's focus on making the game better and making the game more fun, and also lowering the cost point so we can attract a larger audience. So with that said, the live streams weren't much about, we don't do any focus really on driving revenue with them. Maybe we should do some more, but other than the money we got from Twitch, there really weren't any big things that happened during the live streams to drive revenue. So all those things together, basically it was exhausting. We didn't really have enough content to talk about on a weekly basis for an hour. A limited audience could attend live. How players ask questions, where we pretty much took questions live rather than collecting questions in advance. Many times questions would be asked and I wouldn't have the answer, and I would sometimes fumble and try to give an answer and say things that might frustrate other people on the team, or say things that just weren't true and not going to happen. All those things added up to, it felt like it would be players and devs would be better served, and the game in general would be better served to just do a once a month stream when we have the list of here's all the stuff we're doing, we just did for the release. Basically in front of us, bullet pointed out, we have stuff to talk about. We can actually spend a little time preparing for it and going over it in advance, because it's not a 1 day a week type thing, draining everybody. Anyways, it feels like what we're doing makes sense. And then also the other part is moving the questions to be, rather than taking them live and stream, which can be good, but it doesn't really help people unless they're on Twitch, and a lot of people can't be on there. And it also, you have to be in that tiny window to catch them. So moving to the dev question, which I guess I need to make an announcement about. I'll tweet something out and get it on all of our social media and in the forums. But just how you can ask a question that'll be answered for the next live stream. But it's moving that to just be in chat in the game, so you can do dev question space whatever, and our bot will go and pull that question and share it with the team. But anyways, I think it'll be better content. So many of these people out there who are doing streaming right now are doing amazing jobs of doing streaming. I think they actually show the game better for a new player coming into the game. I think there's a little fascination with talking to a dev once a week for someone who hasn't actually played the game, but I think they're better served by seeing someone actually playing the game rather than seeing dorky old me sit here and stare at a wall because I'm focused completely on talking to you guys. So.
Oh, absolutely. And that's not just for the streams, I think, and that's also big compliments to all the players who've been making the new videos recently, or the last few months on YouTube, explaining how it all works. I think is really amazing, and it helps a whole lot. I can totally understand that that kind of content does so much more for potential players or for new players, rather than hearing a dev talk about technical stuff, which is more cool for players who've been sitting here doing guild meetings for 4 years.
Yep.
Cool. So there's one more thing I would like to ask, and after that perhaps we can make it a little bit more of an open mic where people can just ask, or we can look at questions in Discord a bit more, or just see who would like to come to voice and ask. But can you share a little bit about your vision for the rest of the year? What can we expect? And perhaps that ties to that a little bit. Do you have some things which are written down on the episode 3 list already?
I don't think we have anything written down on the episode 3 list. Right now, we're still focused on a lot of the episode 2 stuff. My vision for the rest of the year is we are going to start moving back into some more content creation, and I'm hoping that we will get back into at least one new scene every talk. We kind of missed one. We had a couple come out in one talk, and with this last one, we kind of missed releasing the one big scene. Again, we've been trying to push limits on some things and figure out what makes sense and what works well and what will be interesting, and we've kind of we've hit some limits in some places in terms of some technical stuff. Now, we've been slowly getting over those limits, but it's definitely been time consuming, and I think it's, unfortunately, there's like sometimes stuff is time consuming and it has a lot of player facing benefits. I think some of the stuff I've been fighting with and other people in the team have been fighting with lately are time consuming and don't really have any player facing benefit. But I think we're going to get back.
I know you use the word talk, and for most of us, we know the TikTok thing. But just in case you have some people listening don't know what TikTok means.
Yeah. Yeah. We just realized that we were trying to push ourselves too much and trying to make every release have a lot of player-facing stuff. And again, this is one of those habits we got into, I think, probably too much in the old days, is there was a lot of big concern of we want to make sure when we have our monthly release that, we've got at least like a full page of bullet points of cool stuff that a player's going to read and say, oh, cool, oh, cool, oh, cool, oh, cool. And one, that is exhausting, and two, it was introducing far too many bugs. And three, I mean, no game in the world does that type of thing, and for us to be trying to do it with a team of a dozen people was starting to feel both insane and also burning out people on the team. So we've kind of moved to what we call a TikTok model, which is we're trying to every other release have something that makes players, a few things on it that makes players say, oh, cool, that's cool, I can't wait to look forward to that. And then the tick being the smaller one, and that being mostly a let's try and fix bugs and get caught up on stuff. So that's kind of the goal with things. Again, I think there's a lot of times we've set, there's things we do that we do it because that's how it's always been done, and we need to stop and take a look at some of those things. And the whole every single month we're going to try to put out something that's going to knock everybody's socks off was both exhausting and I think also damaging to the game, just because it ended up introducing a lot of 80% finished stuff, as you were talking about earlier. We need to get less stuff and get it 100% finished, and continuing to hammer down the other bugs and rough areas. Devil Cult's been amazing in terms of doing some stuff for us here and like improving the UI stuff. That's another one of those things that doesn't look great in a bullet point to like most people, but if you're an existing player and you see some of that stuff, that's the type of stuff that gets existing players happy. So again, working on improving some of the existing stuff every release, and then trying to get a few big things out for the talk release. I forget what the question was before that.
Well, yeah, your vision of the rest of the year.
Okay. So my vision of the rest of the year, I'm hoping to get the new skill tree live. I'm hoping we have at least a couple of new creature types, and that we have at least, I'm going to say, I'm hoping we can get 4 new maps done. That is kind of looking at going between Travis and Sanyo, that are hopefully at least a couple of those will be related to episode 2 stuff. There's a few other things that are on my stretch goal list that are just big question marks. One has been the ongoing, when do we upgrade to, when or if we upgrade to the newer versions of Unity. And by newer versions, for those who don't know, we use Unity as our base engine. But we're on Unity 2018, and currently the current version of Unity is 2021. They got 2021 out. 2020 is in long-term service at this point, so that's when we've said we would try moving to things. But I spent time in the past moving us to 2019, which actually dramatically hurt performance and didn't give any actual visible benefits. 2020 is next. We're going to try moving that. It is supposed to be better in terms of performance. Other people, this wasn't just we saw performance differences and no one else did. Everybody who used it saw performance issues. But 2020 is the next one that I'll probably spend half a month on at some point trying to get us over there. And I think the problem is when we've moved, there's a lot of people on the team who are excited about it, moving to a new version of Unity, because it does have like better profiling, better art tools, some more new things that people can use, better terrain options, better, there's a lot of things better on it, but very few of them actually have player-facing aspects. We would just have to hope that all the effort and possible loss of performance, possible new bugs from moving to a new platform or moving to a new engine would be, that pain would be worth the improvements we saw in the dev tools, and our dev production rate or quality could improve. But anyways, that's also on my wish list for the end of the year. Let's see, what other big things are there in terms of things? Some new quest stuff. I think the new daily type stuff, I think that's going to continue expanding. I've given Elgarion has been doing great stuff, and I've given him pretty much free reign to do what he thinks is best, and that's one of the things that he thinks is important, and he has done a great job with. He's done a great job cleaning up a lot of the crafting stuff and itemization in the game. That is getting close to an end, though. I think we'll probably take a few more passes on a few things like consumables, and you guys will see some improvements in those categories as well. But I guess the big things, if you're looking at big new features, my hope is still new creatures, couple new creatures that actually have intelligent ways to fight them, rather than just being, a damage sponge and here's the DPS it does and here's the thing that it's immune to. New maps and a new skill tree. I'll throw those out as the big ones. We'll also probably get a few more mounts in. I will also point out the mount stuff. One and Only has finished up his side of the mount jumping. I know that seems pretty small, but that's something that a lot of people have been wanting. And right now that's just waiting on some artwork from Damon. Oh, and we'll be on QA soon. I actually could move it to QA now, but Damon specifically yelled at me and said he would come to my house and punch me if I did that.
That should only be done if screen.
I think right now the horse jumping is in the you can jump with the horse, but the horse doesn't animate, because Damon still needs to do animations for those things. So basically your horse goes wee, bonk, bonk, bonk. It's still better than nothing.
Are we going to be able to start writing our coconuts again?
That is one that we'll probably try to get to here soon. It is it should
cool.
it
Like our coconuts.
Yeah, I know you guys like your coconuts. The challenge with it is I wish I knew when it broke. Did it break when mounts came out?
Yep. It's right when mounts came out.
Okay.
I mean, the point that most players thought it was done intentionally. That those were a placeholder.
Yeah.
And now the mounts were there. But when I talked to you and you were like, no, they should still work.
Okay.
Because they should work the same way as a mount does, And don't forget, there's more than one set of coconuts. We also have our flaming coconuts.
Oh, I know. That is one of those. So when One and Only did a lot of the work for the mount stuff, because he did most of that work for the mounts. He was also the one who had added coconuts in the past, and we've probably mentioned on streams before the if coconuts. By that I mean there was a ton of logic in the game where there were you'd be cruising through code and you would see if coconuts equals true or whatever, like a bunch of these hard-coded type things that you should never really do, but that was hacked in for the April Fool's thing, but it was hacked in all over the place and it was horrible and source of many bugs. So when he was doing the mount stuff, he was trying to refactor all that stuff to make it so it was modular, and that type of thing in the future would be something easier to do. So he probably knows right where it broke and just isn't aware. I think many people, longtime players are at least aware of some of the issues he's gone through with the challenging life stuff with the loss of his wife and some other stuff that has happened. Lost his dad and his wife in a matter of a month, basically. But he is back doing some amazing stuff, so I'll mention it to him and see if he can get on that. Cocoa nuts.
Because they're coconuts. I'll tell you, when I try to describe this game to people who don't play it, that's actually, I go, we get to kill a ferocious bunny and we have coconut mounts, and they just crack up. I mean, these are cool factors.
Oh, I know.
So we have a few minutes left on the clock, and I was wondering if there's anybody here, either on Discord or on Twitch, who have questions. Just shoot. And,
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Blood Omen.
Well, yeah, Chris, you may want to take a minute to do your thank yous for for the people that are on Twitch.
Let's see. I'm trying to see. There's not that many people there. Blood Omen has been, he gifted 3 subs there. Thank you, Blood Omen. Ben Cannoli, I got a few, handful of new follows out there. Thank you guys for the follows. But thanks for all the people showing up on a Sunday here. And sorry to drag some of you guys away from double experience stuff. When did I say I was going to turn that off? I'm going to turn that off tomorrow at noon. Is that what I said? Maybe?
I thought you said next Sunday. Next Sunday.
Uh-huh.
Is that what I heard?
We'll see. I'm going to leave it on at least until tomorrow at noon. I'll talk to El Garan and see if we have any other stuff. That's one that does not need a patch to go out, that I can just flip a switch on the server. So we'll see. It's easy for me to turn off, but there was some promotional stuff I want to talk to El Garan about, so I'll talk to him and see where we're at with that stuff. But it'll probably go off tomorrow at noon. But yeah, we should give you guys, there should be ways you guys can help, do something to bring that back. I mentioned we try to get away from money stuff, but one of the things we do like is we like having ways for people in the community who do have money to spend to be able to help everybody in the server. And that's kind of the whole thing with POTS, is we try to make sure, it's a big social thing that pulls people in, but it's also something in a way that players who are, who love the game can help with development. So maybe we can come up with some way to turn on double experience, like if we sell a pot or something like that some week, turns on double experience for that weekend. See,
What
Hunt?
about another off question? There's been a lot of talk on the forums that's very emotional. People are either really strongly for or against. We kind of touched on it last time you were here.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of a global market, so you didn't have to go from one pot to another pot to another pot to look at vendors. And people are either strongly against it, strongly for it, or somewhere in between. And there's other discussions about issues. So for an example, we have a sort of semi-hidden vendor that is literally just for guild members, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that we can sell things cheaper that we wouldn't want to have exposed
Yes.
to everybody. That it's meant to be private. So where is that in the journey? I know you haven't done anything yet, but where are you in your thought process journey, and what are you thinking in that direction?
So based on what you just said, and I think that makes it obvious why, if it does happen, it'll have to be something where players can just opt in. They have a way to opt in or opt out. But the current plan for it, and I'm not sure if it's going to be on Devil Colts next month or two, but the current plan for it was do that, but on a city basis. So in an individual city, you can go and show me the open lots, and you can also show me the public vendors and get the loot through those guys. There were multiple reasons to do that. One, it feels like it's a step in the direction for what players want, but it also gives players, there's a reason to come to town, and you have to come to town to check things out. That's
So you're saying you can actually, an interface where you would like go into the town, go to the town crier or something like that, and purchase from instead of from the actual.
No, and then it would basically do what the pot list does. It'll show you this stuff, but then it'll also give you a here's where it is tag, so you can see.
You have to actually go to the vendor.
Still have to go to the vendor.
To purchase it.
Still have to go to the vendor is still the thought for it. Again, this is we're trying to nudge it in a direction that feels more playable and more what players expect. But we're trying to also not upset players, and I understand the reasons why players are upset, which is, they have a prime spot, they have, they're in a prime town, and we don't want to have just a global vendor, because as soon as you turn it into a totally everything's global vendor marketplace, then it absolutely becomes lowest cost.
Correct.
That's, why would I pay 45 gold for a heal potion over there when I can get it for 43 here? And it turns it into, that's why I don't like the idea of the completely global everything. Having
also, it's the same mentality of Amazon, closing mom and pop stores in little towns. It's the same feeling. And then you feel like you can't compete, so. Okay, that's awesome. I guess I appreciate the fact that you're looking at both sides, because I think both arguments are really legitimate, but it's also a really complex argument, complex situation that's going to drastically impact people's play style.
Yep.
And they've invested time and money in their game, and we make a major change like that. There's no way to not upset some people to a point, but to do as minimal upsetting and to help the quality of life is the goal, obviously.
Yeah. So the other reason that option is appealing, at least as a next step, is the system wasn't really built with a global model in mind. And when you're talking about going from I go to a vendor and open it, where it may be, you may have 150 items on there. Okay, well now if we take that same system and like any person who goes to a global vendor thing, it's 150 items from each person times 1,000, and now you're talking about like how are we pulling in like 150,000 items into the list? Because it is. I mean, I haven't looked lately, but it's the number of items that are up for sale at any given time on vendors are in the tens of thousands. It's not an easily manageable chunk of data, but if we break it down into a per town level, at least that's a little more tolerable, a little more manageable. It doesn't feel like it's going to set our servers on fire to handle that type of stuff. So anyways, there's a lot of stuff on there that there's a lot of things to think on there. And I see somebody say that couldn't you do it by dates and data? And we could do it by dates in the data, but it's still, right now it would be touching data. It'd be touching a lot of different stuff. The list for the marketplace stuff is not a single gigantic table. Players have added an item to their vendor and we put that into some global list. If it were like that, it would be easy to go and get like, here's the last 1,000 items that were added. But that's not how the data is set up. The data is really set up on a per person basis, because that's how the items. We look at things by ownership, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen in terms of vendors and pulling data off of vendors. And even if we put it in the global list, it had like some big global list of stuff. It'd be problematic because like maybe somebody picks up their lot and now their vendor gets picked up, and now the items, we got to go extract those from 1 million items in this gigantic table. But anyways, doing it on a per town basis where you can see stuff that's for sale in town is much more doable in terms of how the tech is set up and availability of data is set up, and also feeling like it will not completely overwhelm people on data. That is one that we've talked about internally and is also probably going to end up on Devil Cult's short list. stuff as he gets things done. So that's currently my thinking on it. Again, the global one scares me. Having a global, I saw somebody mention global finder. It would be a little less, I think, toxic to the community. Again, a little less of the Amazon vibe, as Minerva was saying. If we had some type of global finder where you could find items on it, but not see a price on it, and not drive, because that again is the fear of having the global marketplace. As soon as you have a global marketplace, you see exactly what happens. It's a race to the bottom in terms of things. Another thing that we had talked about that might be useful for players, but I think would also be pretty spammy, but maybe not too spammy, is just adding a channel that is when somebody adds something to a vendor, you can see somebody, so and so added something to a vendor. Basically, making another channel. Like there's the trader channel, and then there's the vendor channel, and so you can be on your vendor channel. See on the vendor channel and see like somebody just added 4,000 garlic to their vendor. That's another one that, again, because the idea is to bring exposure to that type of stuff and fresh stuff, added things. The challenge with that, again, is as always, that's why you can't have nice things. As soon as we have something like that where they know how they can get something updated and sent out, posted on that, then it immediately becomes now I'm going to go remove it and add it over and over again until somebody buys it and spam it up the channel that way. So
I actually just got whispered a question
Mm-hmm.
from somebody watching the stream that says, well, how is this going to impact public vendors with all of this? Will they be treated like a player vendor in the sense of finding items, etc.?
Oh, they would just be the only thing I was suggesting for the city-based vendor is you could go to it and it could show you a list of all the people in town or all the items in town. And again, maybe it's one where it shows you here's all the items in town, but it doesn't show you prices on things. Again, because even the race to the bottom can happen on we all know that 70% of vendor transactions happen in a half dozen towns in the game. So, but it would just show you.
And I'm looking outside because there's some fun things you can find if you really spread your wings. But
Yeah, the public vendor people would show up on that list too. It would just basically go through. I mean, the way I envisioned it was it would go through all the pots or all the vendors in town, find the vendor, pull its list, and add it to the list of stuff. And if you picked one of the items on the list, it would do what it does if you go to a crier right now and say, show me the lot, where it'll give you the little mark on your compass so you can find the person easily. That was my current thinking, and that is, I'm pretty confident we can support that already with our tech without any major rework in terms of performance scariness.
But people would have the option to opt in or opt out.
Yes, and that would be one they'd have to have a way that they could opt in or out.
Because I'm tired of having to hide all of those cool vendors in hidden basements. I actually think Vero had some more questions. Because he's mocking, talking.
Yeah, yeah. We're meanwhile talking in the guild chat, and people have some more questions, and I'll just ask them, and perhaps that's good to wrap them up with, because we're a little bit over time with the guild meeting, and us Europeans need to put children to bed and go to sleep and all that kind of real life shenanigans.
I understand.
One question is, and this I think a lot of people can relate to this one. Is it an option to make the mouse cursor bigger, or have it make a different color, so that when we're in big groups, sometimes in very chaotic moments, you can not see the mouse really proper? If we could make it bigger or highlight it in a different color, it would help a ton.
Somebody was mentioning that on our team chat. I'm not sure why that came something recent, but maybe some of these times I wonder why are people now talking about X, Y, or Z. It's been like that for 4 years, and it wasn't an issue before now. And my honest belief is some of it is, well, we're fixing the other things. So as we fix the most annoying stuff, new stuff bubbles to the top. So hopefully that's a bubble to the top. But yes, absolutely, I will put that on the list. What do you think? Scaling option, would that work? Like having just a slider in the UI thing, so you could up your mouse size or your cursor size?
What would be perfect, of course, would be a slider in combination with a color picker, but perhaps that's a bit much to ask.
Let's see.
You understand too, we have like one of the gentlemen in our guild is legally blind. So he plays the game very differently than a lot of people in the game. He uses the sound a whole lot. So there's sounds I didn't even know existed until you mentioned something. I'm like, oh wow, that is there.
Yeah, that's one that we definitely should do. And I think that's another one of those where I've been saying I'm going to do it for a while, but I've got my setup that I have in my desk is great for my productivity. I've got two 30-inch Dell monitors. If you remember, like the old days, Dell monitors, like they were one of the few people making 30 inches. And I've been saying as soon as they die, I'm going to replace them with 4K monitors. And they apparently will just never die, because I think these monitors are they're older than Maxine, and I think they're probably a decade old at this point, because I bought them off of eBay cheap. But I mention that because they're still the same pixel density as like a 24-inch 1080p monitor. So some of these things that I know you guys see as tiny, it's probably because you're on a 4K monitor or higher resolution, smaller pixel monitor, and that's stuff that doesn't scale. So soon I will get a 4K monitor and I can see the pixel density that you guys are seeing that may be causing problems with the cursor as well, because that may be it may be that problem. We don't scale our cursor up on a 4K monitor, so it just ends up being much tinier.
That would be really, really nice. Another question, and that's going to be last for me as well. Need to log soon.
Okay.
And I can understand this is a real quality of life thing as well. But could you give us the option to make? Reading the wrong one. Could you have an ability to select multiple casks in our inventory and then right-click Take All? That's a way to avoid the pain of having to manually open every cask.
I mean, what a lot of people do is they have a trunk that has 30 casks in it for them time period to go. So then when the time frame has passed and now the stuff is ready, you have to open each cask, hit take all, open the next cask, take all. And so what he was trying to say is, can you open, just have a way to do all of the inventory and all of the containers?
Maybe. That one sounds like one of those that it seems like it'd be easy on the surface, but I know how some of our things work. Especially when you start dealing with the inventory, there's a lot of caution that goes into anything dealing with inventory and items and moving things around. So I will say maybe I will mention it and look at it. That may be one that Devil Cult can take a look at adding. But that's one that may have other issues just in terms of how we deal with things. That it may be sometimes some of these things, like before you can do anything else, you have to get a clean send to the server and a clean receive from the server to acknowledge like removing stuff, and that may be problematic with that stuff. That's one of the things we've been really good on, and I absolutely don't want to change it, is rushing anything into stuff that deals with inventory and moving items around and introducing bugs that could cause problems.
Don't break anything.
Yeah, we don't want to break anything with inventory or items. I will give you a definite.
I take everything out of it and have them all stay, so that I have two.
I will put it on the list to talk to Devil Cult about, and I can take a look at it myself, or Wizard Smoke can take a look at it maybe.
Kind of assume that's what you're trying to avoid, what I just said.
Yeah.
And we've actually gone over 15 minutes.
All right.
I would like to say thank you personally and as well for the guild for having me. Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you come. We always enjoy the time, and it's time well spent. So I want to say thank you, and I am sorry for the less people in the seats, but I know they were watching.
Yeah.
They just
If it's
wanted
equal,
to
we
suck
gotta
up
find
that
equal-
double
we gotta
XP.
find a separator there, I guess.
Oops, sorry. I was trying to get to the Shroud of the Avatar to find somebody to raid. Well, thank you guys for having me, and I mean, I'm glad to do these things whenever. That's I mentioned when I brought up that we were doing away with the every single week streams, that it would also give me more time to do this type of thing, which somehow the week after the first week we have killed the streams, the Friday streams. I had 3 of these things, so the saving myself the energy from being to be an introvert did not work out this week, but happy to attend these things whenever. Love the format you guys have here and love the question you guys give. So,
Okay.
hey,
Thanks again for joining us, and we will have to ask all these questions. So probably next time we have a bunch more. And for everybody who gave questions and we didn't cover it, really sorry, but can't really cover it all. Would love to make this more interactive wherever possible, wherever people would like to come to voice, please do.
yep. All right.
Just
Well,
so you know, my questions weren't answered. So it's not personal.
well, I'm going to raid for the people who are watching on my stream. I'm going to raid Strider Green here today. So,
Go Strider!
gonna go ahead and start that up there. And I'll stay on chat after I end my stream and talk with you guys a little bit too.
Okay, good.
People who joined me on the stream today, thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday. And we are going over to raid Strider Green. Go give him a follow if you haven't already done so. And I will see you next time. Raiding. And
That was awesome. Thank you.